Hello, everybody. Hello, Martello, Sean Donnelly, T&D Test Library. It's Friday Fire. This is where I cover all the spicy stuff, spicy news from the week. And yes, the market still sucks. Stop it. That was the background test to make sure I'm not talking to myself. The market still sucks. We're still chopping sideways. Not much is happening. But there's some good stuff to uncover. And this one's called Stacking Dominance. Let's get into the story and see if I can pop it up. Yoo-hoo. There. Where's me? Little me? Little me? I don't know which one. Anyway, we'll figure that out as we go through this. But let's get into it. First of all, not financial advice. Second of all, bold to the explorer. Really enjoying Patreon. Thank you for being part of the family. Let's get into the first thing. Fear and greed is exactly where it was, like almost yesterday, the day before. Not much is happening there. The market is still on edge. Bitcoin's just under 84K. It's been a volatile swinging day. We were 85K earlier in the day. We were 88K earlier in the week. And we fell as low as 83K. So we're pretty much down 3,500, which is not good. Gold, however, is above. Gold is above 3,000. In fact, it hit 3,100 for the first time ever. We'll look at that too, because the question is gold a better investment than Bitcoin or not? Let's get into that. And why is gold doing so well? And what's going on? And could there be an angle of game theory there? We'll dig into that too, as well as a whole bunch more. Let's first of all talk about bull market status, because the question I get every single day, hey Piper, is the bull market over? A lot of people, like about 15 to 20% of people, are convinced the Bitcoin bull market is over. Well, the typical signs that shows that the bull market is over is when short-term holders are getting into Bitcoin. They're not really here yet. And when price is above the MVRV, yeah, bull market's still on. And long-term holders are only selling in a moderate amount. Now they're not selling at all. So those three factors tell us the bull market's still on. And then signs the bull market might be ending is when the long-term holders suddenly dump. That's not happening because they're stacking. And price on the MVRV is below 1. We're now nearly at 2, 1.93. But what we're seeing right now, and believe me, I am acutely aware of the tensions out there, everybody. I just urge you all to calm down. You can use the wrong word in something and people lose their minds. Right now, there's a lot of global tension. There's a lot of tariff tension. There's a lot of fear of maybe war happening in certain regions and big B-2 bombers flying in the air and peace happening, peace not happening. Macro, it's I've never seen such a tense world. And we all need to just relax, chill out. It's Friday. That's what happy hours are for. To chill out. Maybe that'll happen. So anyway, by getting back to this MVRV, you can see here we're at 1.93. We are very, very far below, that one level. When we get to the one level, then we are entering the bear market, and we haven't been that low since kind of mid to late 2023. So we should be in good shape there from a Bitcoin perspective. And get this, we had 10 black days in a row for the Bitcoin ETFs. That's nice. Everybody thought it was dead. No, it's not. The ETFs are still buying more and more. In fact, I'm seeing signs that there are other players trying to buy and stack as much as they can right now. So lots of goodness there. Now, we did have the worst 5 weeks in the history of the ETF before, but since then, they've rebounded back, buying literally north of 1.3 billion now at this stage in just 10 or 11 days, which is excellent news. Now, let's talk about this, because everybody's saying gold is crushing it. A quick reminder regarding gold. There are times when gold does very well, when gold outperforms Bitcoin. Typically happens in bear markets, but I'm just going to show you the 15-year history of Bitcoin versus gold. This is the chart. You can build it yourself in TradingView. Gold divided by BTC, and it's using Bitstamp. Now, when the line is blue, that means gold is trouncing Bitcoin. When it's gold, Bitcoin's trouncing gold. So you can see back in 2011, gold had its day in the sun versus Bitcoin. And then again, during the bear market of 2014, late part of 2014, gold beat Bitcoin. And then again, make sure I can see this carefully. Late part of 2018 onwards, gold won again a little bit. We had a little bit of a financial crisis late 2019. I don't know if you guys recall that because everybody's always thinks about March 2020 instead. But there was a mini global financial crisis. It was actually one of the reasons I got very cautious and kind of exited the market. And then I found out in December what was really going on. Anyhow, gold won there, and then gold again in the bear market of 2022. Gold won, but most of the time, and then we had a little blip back in July, August 2024. And again, so far this year, 2025, gold is beating Bitcoin. But if you look at gold divided by Bitcoin over the long term, gold has lost 99.98% of its value. So it's been completely trounced. And what's happening, I think this is an extremely good sign. I'm very positive on gold because if gold is going up and it's so incredibly strong, what's digital gold going to do? And it's only a matter of time before people figure it out. And then following this guy, Josh Mann, because Josh is the fellow that believes Bitcoin could hit 444,000. He's also the guy who pegged the bottom back on March 14th. Anyhow, the point is he's got this theory. Allow the Brics nations to bid up gold, fattening their stockpiles. Allow them to believe we are intending to do the same, i.e. we, United States of America, and we will gain a single initial defector, Brazil. We'll get to them in a second. And then we will pull the plug and start dumping gold on their heads in exchange for Bitcoin. I encourage you to save in Bitcoin. That's the story. So gold and Brics, it's very clear. China, Russia, India are all stacking gold right now. And the common thread is they're Brics nations. So where this all goes, I don't know, but this is an interesting piece of game theory we have to look at. In addition, guess what? Just today, 5 hours ago, the vice president of Brazil believes a strategic Bitcoin reserve is in the public interest of Brazilians. Woohoo, shout out to everybody down there in Brazil. Oi, tá bom? But a sovereign reserve, they described, will be decisive for our prosperity. Very strong words from this vice president. Bitcoin is digital gold. It's a technology that allows us to store the fruits of our labor efficiently and securely. So, this is very prescient from Josh. Imagine one of the Brics, the R in the Brics, no, the B in the Brics is Brazil. They defect and stack Bitcoin. It all sounds too good to be true, but who knows? Anyway, you got to think of all these angles. Now, let's talk about something else that's crazy. This is a cool chart from Econometrics. And of course, I've been tracking MicroStrategy and Sailor for over 2 decades, but MicroStrategy since 2020. And they, this week, bought another 7,000 Bitcoin. Their total bag is 506,000. This amount, by my calculations, these are some crazy stats that I think about. They basically bought the next 3 years of issuance with their bag, 506,000. That's basically how much will be issued by the miners who are stacking themselves over the next 3+ years. And they have it locked up. So to put that in perspective as well, this bag of 506,000 is about the same amount that all the spot Bitcoin ETFs have bought since they launched. Remember, Grayscale had some already, which got drained away and then into the new players. So the net new is the size of the Sailor bag, and he front ran the ETFs. And even though the ETFs have had a bigger effect on price in the short term, MicroStrategy's impact is still huge. It's still huge. I believe they will continue to stack at this rate. You can see this parabolic chart. It's insane. And again, they have sped up a lot. So as a certain person will say, I will mention their name in case I trigger people. But what's most important to watch in life is rate of change. This parabolic curve here shows you the vertical rate of change of stacking. Even though the price of Bitcoin during the stacking period, kind of late 2024, was north of 65, 70, $80,000, all the way up to $103, $105,000. They were stacking at that price. The amount that they're stacking is incredible. And I get the feeling right now that Saylor is trying to get as much as he can right now, with Bitcoin down under 84,000. So maybe he's ATMing today. I saw something on the chart that told me that. Anyway, to put other things in perspective, we did mention Bitcoin issuance, 450 Bitcoin a day are mined globally. About 40% of the hash rate now is not public miners. It's about 60% of the hash rate is kind of individual nations and individual miners, not public miners. But here you can see some of the Bitcoin companies are following the Saylor playbook. You've got Marathon now, I think they have 47,000 Bitcoin, and Riot, 19,000 Bitcoin. Again, all of this is again, either these people are very foolish or very early. And I think they're very early. There will never be another MicroStrategy. You know, they have the first mover advantage. And 500,000 Bitcoin out of 15 million that'll ever exist, because so many are lost, is a big bag for one player to have. And others are coming. We heard as well this week, GameStop going to buy $1.3 billion of Bitcoin. They're probably doing it right now. We just don't see it reflected in price because it's OTC. Anyway, we'll watch this space, and Rumble's coming in, and maybe some other players too. Maybe Robinhood. So that's all happening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in other interesting news as well, going into what's the craziness happening around the world. This is from Carl Menger. After selling 50,000 Bitcoin at the market bottom last year, the new German coalition now plans to scrap the 1-year tax-free rule for our German friends for crypto and Bitcoin. And they plan to hit crypto and Bitcoin owners with a 30% flat capital gains tax under the proposal. So it's like, yeah, we ditch our Bitcoin. Now we don't care about it. Now we just want to punish the citizens. So it's a bit of sad news to see them maybe propose to revert that to find more taxes from the people. Anyway, we'll see where this goes. And Tracy Jin, the COO of MEXC, believes ETH could fall to $1,500 this month. That's kind of scary because the market's already down, and for it to fall a lot more is kind of terrifying. And she said the outlook for the market will become clearer maybe at the end of April, but in the meantime, things could fall further. And she cited a 30% drop in the value of ETH since the beginning of the year. That's big. The year is not even 3 months old, and ETH has already lost 40% of its value. But it's not just that. There's other stuff happening behind the scenes. You've got the community switching to use other blockchains. All the fees, all the action is happening elsewhere. And this is pretty dramatic. And we saw this coming, because who's gonna go through the ETH user experience? It's just painful. It's slow and it's expensive. People will eventually migrate, and that's what they've been doing. And this is stunning. This goes completely counter to the Bitcoin 10 days of positive flows. In fact, 11 out of 12 days are very positive, but ETH is bleeding out since, 10th of March. How many days? This is nearly 20 days here. Negative every single day. That is not good. Why is that happening? I'm not sure. But either way, people are losing faith. And this is reflected also in the price. This is the ETH Bitcoin chart. I thought it was like the first arch of a McDonald's symbol, the first part of the M. But this is ETH Bitcoin hitting a new 5-year low. Remember, ETH was on fire back in, it started kicking off hard in March 2020, and they were the first to bring true smart contracts to the world, and the DeFi revolution began. But since then, it's gone up, and it's been on this gradual decline since, I guess, 2022. It has not been good for the ETH holders. Now, there's another interesting story as well. This is the Sol upside model. You can see here, we built this way back in 2021 to determine the future price of Solana. And it's still valid to this day, but tracking it right now, it's kind of interesting because, fun fact, Solana now does 3 times the fees of Ethereum and has 10 times the users. Who would have ever thought that? But currently, we're between the 20% of ETH market cap and 33% of ETH market cap, basically around 25, 26% of ETH market cap, basically a quarter, but it does an awful lot more. So it's only a matter of time before we hit that 33% of ETH market cap. Now, if the ETH price stays the same, that'll take the Solana price to 147. ETH, Sol, 33% market cap is one of the projections I made for this year. It looks like we'll get there closer than we imagined. Anyway, but we do need Sol to be at 147. Solana was in the 140s a few days ago, and we'll wait for it to get back there. But just the market is very weak, as I mentioned before, because of all of the macro, all of the nervousness, all of the tensions around the world. This is not isolated to the crypto world, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Sol upside model. Now, speaking of another token, another so-called Sol killer called Say, well, they failed at DeFi, so they're thinking about trying some genetics action. And there is a new category called DeSci, decentralized science. Maybe sometimes what I've noticed happen is during crypto cycles, as we get towards the end of the bull run, and there's no doubt the end of the bull run could happen as early as October of this year, maybe earlier, maybe later, maybe it goes on forever, I'm not sure. But you see chains doing crazy things to get adoption, okay, to achieve their goals. They rebrand from something they used for 4 years like Phantom to something like Sonic, and they hope that will fool everybody to think it's a new chain. No, it's rare a rebranding actually works. A couple of use cases actually it has worked, like Meta, but oftentimes it does not work as well. But the 23andMe have a big black eye on the market because they have gone bankrupt and they hold people's DNA and they sold your DNA information for many years. People signed up like lambs to the slaughter. Ooh, look at this. Let's see what my DNA says. Don't give away your personal stuff, especially not your DNA. But how it can be used, remember, I won't get into it. It's just too hot a topic for today's environment. When everybody's calmer, I'll talk more about that stuff. But again, I think it's a desperate attempt at trying to achieve some growth or relevance. And why do it? They should really focus on building organic growth in their own sector through adoption by building dApps, etc. Let's look at some numbers. This is Say versus Sol. You can see their max TPS is 20K. Sol is 710K, but going to 1.2 million once Firedance gets adopted broadly. But one thing I do want to point out is daily fees, $74 versus nearly 1.2 million for Solana. That's crazy. Weekly developers, very low. Solana has 16 times more developers. Daily active users, Solana has 13 times more daily active users, etc. Transactions, 20 times more. I mean, it's one of those things where the winner takes most. You've heard me say for years and years and years, it's the same in crypto. Crypto is not special. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday, everybody. Happy hour to a bottle of red. I see you out there. And Margie K and everybody else. Now, this is a cool story. I found this fascinating. Jelly nearly wrecks Hyperliquid. What does that mean? How a $6 million gamble nearly crashed a DeFi platform. There were theories out there that this was all orchestrated by big bad players like Binance and such. But I looked into this trade and it was really fascinating how it worked. So I just want to share it with you all so you're aware of what can happen behind the scenes in DeFi and crypto and how you think you're alone in this beautiful world and there's nobody trading or manipulating behind the scenes. Well, that's not true. So this trader strategy was kind of interesting. I think they took $6 or $7 million and they broke it into 3 separate accounts on Hyperliquid. And Hyperliquid went bonkers for the last couple of months, but now the shine is wearing off a little bit. But 2 of those 3 accounts took long positions, say $2 million long, $2 million long, and one went short, $2 million short, betting the price would fall. The longs bet the price would go up. So you can see they hedged themselves carefully with 1/3 short just in case their long failed. But they were definitely bullish because their long position was double the size of their short position. Then the trader artificially inflated the price of jelly by purchasing large amounts on other exchanges. And this caused the short position they had to be liquidated. So yeah, they lost 2 million, but they made it back in spades on the long positions. Then Hyperliquid all of a sudden had huge unrealized losses of around $12 million. And Hyperliquid was forced to delist Jelly, the platform. And this what can happen with very thinly traded tokens, low market caps, etc. And that's how it all went down. And I think it was Tracy Jin, the CEO of BitKit, criticized Hyperliquid's handling of the situation, calling it immature, unethical, and unprofessional, and warning they could become the FTX 2.0. So again, crypto is still the Wild West, ladies and gentlemen. It hasn't changed. Be careful out there. And be careful with playing with assets that are manipulated. Everything in this world is manipulated. When you go into markets knowing that, you do much better, knowing who is on the other side of the table. And in more fire news, Kraken, the Kraken was released, or unreleased the Kraken, or whatever they used to say, some meme like that. Anyhow, I think a Kraken is a big sea monster or something. But the SEC formally dismissed all charges against Kraken and Consensus and Cumberland because they're trying to reform the crypto industry. So it's good news for everybody who had these frivolous lawsuits filed by Gary Gensler in the SEC. But the new SEC is much kinder, much friendlier, and much more logical too. So this is great for the whole crypto space. But we still have manipulation. So be careful of that. Now, another little bit of auto news too, because a lot of the fear in the market right now is not just because of new inflation fears and stagflation fears, but also tariff fears. But you got some players that are getting ahead of the tariff stuff very strategically and intelligently. This is Hyundai. They're bidding big on America from TSLA here, and they are building an $8 billion plant, or have built it. I'm not sure the exact status, and that will dodge the 25% tariff. And they want to gear up to build nearly 500,000 EVs a year. And I always said, and a few others did too, that I believe the first company to license Tesla FSD would be Hyundai, because they know how to survive, and they're very clever and very strategic, and they play the long game. They make great cars, and they're just missing the FSD link. So we'll see if that happens. And a lot of people believe tariffs are bad. Tariffs will drive inflation, etc. It'll be a mixed bag, but long term, it'll be better for at least the United States and level the playing field for competition around the world as well. Now, speaking of competition around the world, it's pretty clear to me that China is running away with many industries around the world. People thought, well, if we stop selling them NVIDIA GPUs, they'd fall behind in AI. I was like, no, that's not the case. I'm sure they found a way to get them or build their own or whatever else. Anyhow, there's a cool little piece from Bloomberg, shout out to Sanjay as well, and how the Chinese actually plan ahead. I remember more than 20 years ago, the Chinese were buying up large places in Africa. They were building ports, railroads, and they were mining like crazy. And the whole world is scratching their heads. Why are they mining so much? Well, they were mining because they understood the importance of these things called rare earths, key minerals, strategic minerals, whatever you want to call them. But they are critical building blocks of today's military, semiconductors, radar, EV batteries, EV motors, you name it. These things are critical, and China has everything sewn up. And as a result of that, you're seeing crazy things happen around the world where nation states like the United States are trying to secure their bag of rare critical minerals by looking at other places too. So again, Bitcoin broccoli. We got a big day starting on Monday. Thank you for coming. So it's crazy to see what's happening, but I do believe there are a lot of these rare earth minerals around the world. They just need to be found and discovered. And those nations that have them will do very well. So let's move on. Another interesting thing is this is kind of the impact of communism and centralization from World of Statistics. I thought this was fascinating to see today in my feed. It was the GDP per capita in 1970, 56 years ago. North Korea had a higher GDP per capita of 325 versus South Korea 260. Today, 2023, well, not today, it's probably a lot higher today as well. North Korea is a lot lower. The GDP per capita is 36,000 in South Korea, and North Korea 640. So basically, centralization, communism, that type of stuff does not work. In case people were not aware, there's a lot of talk that the world needs to become, I don't know, more even level. But if you take away capitalism, it's not good. And most people, I think, watching this channel have a little inkling of capitalism probably in their DNA somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't be interested in this. And another big fear, not just wars and inflation and tariffs and geopolitical uncertainty, but University of Michigan, shout out to Kobesi, that's their chart. I expect change in prices to increase over the next 5 to 10 years. A lot of this sentiment is also triggered by tariffs. A lot of people believe tariffs will increase prices. Of course, they will initially, but then they'll be renegotiated and then price will come down as global supply chains become more fair. But long-term U.S. inflation expectations are expected to rise to 4.1% over the next couple of years, and that'll be the highest level in 32 years. Now, when the government says inflation's 4.1%, it's a lot higher than that, okay? Because they exclude key things like coffee and car insurance and all that crazy stuff. So remember, if your CPI says 4.1%, you're probably like a 15. Bear that in mind. And another news too, Optimism sadly is falling. I did say Friday is spicy, Friday fire. So it's not all good news. But here, the Banks of Richmond and Atlanta Fed show a decline in optimism, not just for firms, but also from, again, read the bottom piece, businesses and firms owners are beginning to lose a little bit of faith, and now optimism fell to the lowest level in the year. Again, everybody is unsure of the future, and people are terribly nervous, and that's just sad to see. And finally, ending with a positive note, meme du jour, cheer us all up. This is a level consider it like a continuum of simplicity on the left. You know, some people say hodling Bitcoin is hard. Some people say it brings inner peace. Then explaining Bitcoin is very hard. Very few people can actually do it. And hardest of all, this is very pertinent to me because if you watch this channel, I've been saying for years, Bitcoin mining is a cutthroat business. And this is a little, I guess it's a Mad Max scene. Mining Bitcoin, what it's like. So miners are also sucking, Bottle Red, good to see you. Miners are sucking wind right now, like many other players, but let's hope the bull market's not over. Looking at all the on-chain data that I see, it tells me it's still on. We just need that catalyst, or we just need to get out of March. Feb was terrible. March, not good. They're still down about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%, something like that. But April, historically, is when the S&P 500 starts going bonkers, and Bitcoin, second best month of the year for Bitcoin after October. So with that, everybody, hope you enjoy the show. Or is it November, October? I can't remember which was hot, but either one, they're amazing. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate everybody for being here. Happy Friday, happy weekend. I'll be back tomorrow to recap the week and see what's good. So hope you enjoy all those nuggets, and I hope you can make good decisions. And Hokie says Hive is going to the moon. I hope so. I don't think I don't have any. I don't know if I have any Hive at all, but my miner position is extremely small right now. Cyber, thank you for coming too. Team D Tesla, you're amazing. Thanks for coming as well. Where's Mr. D? Up and down on your best. Yeah, there he is. Thank you. Of course, Sean Donnelly, K8, and everybody else. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hope you like the new structure, format, etc. Sound, picture, slides. Let me know if it works. We're trying different software out as well. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Ciao.